Nigel Farage, the leader of the Brexit Party, is live on LBC. Welcome to the programme. How's your day?
Eddie, it's been fine. Big decision to make, but I've made it, and I think it was the right thing to do.
You said Boris Johnson's deal was not Brexit. You're now asking people in 317 constituencies to vote for a Brexit deal that's not Brexit. How do you feel about that?
If he amends the deal in the way that he said last night, then we are heading firmly in the right direction.
But it's not Brexit, is it, in your view?
As it stands at the moment, no.
So you're saying to people in 317 constituencies, we're withdrawing. If you want Brexit, vote for this party that's not going to promise Brexit with this deal.
Well, I'm saying if the Prime Minister keeps to his promise, and it was a massive change of direction. In fact, when Mrs May gave her speech in Florence, she said, we're going for a close political partnership. Boris last night said there will be no political alignment. If he's true to his word, then the deal gets amended, and it is something like Brexit.
Isn't the reality that your conversion last night is just a fig leaf, if I may say so, to explain away changing a policy which many people told you last week you should have changed?
Oh, look, I was perfectly prepared to fight 600 seats. However...
Well, you personally weren't prepared to fight one, were you?
Well, I was going to lead the party in 600. And, on the one hand, you've got my sheer unhappiness with the so-called deal, the new EU treaty, but on the other, the increasing realisation that in parts of London, southern England, and indeed the southwest of England particularly, the result of our standing would have been a lot of Liberal Democrats getting elected. And I began to think, if me standing up for principle led to an alliance in Parliament that forced a second referendum upon us with all the misery...
People were telling you this last week, though, Nigel Farage, and you ignored them.
I ignored them because, at that stage, the Prime Minister had not moved position.
Well, he hasn't moved position either. He's made a suggestion about what might happen in future, but the Brexit deal you despise is now the Brexit deal you're asking people in 317 constituencies to vote for.
No, I'm not, because the Prime Minister said last night we are changing direction, and that was the reason. In the end, the decision became quite easy. Now, look, I know that what gets promised and what gets delivered can be two different things.
Well, look at you last week and this week.
I fully accept that. Well, what do you mean?
Well, look at what you promised last week and look at what you're delivering now.
Well, what I promised last week
600
is that
candidates.
We would make sure is that I could have still done 600 candidates, and if Boris Johnson had not said what he said last night, I would have done.
Wayne Bailey, who until lunchtime was your candidate in Crawley, a Conservative-held seat, tweeted today, F your election strategy and F Boris. Very disappointed to see Nigel bottle it and back the EU treaty agreed by Boris. Have you bottled it?
I do not back the EU treaty and political declaration as backed by Boris. Of course,
you're asking people to vote for it in 317 constituencies.
And do you know what? If it comes before the European Parliament unamended, I would vote against it. Be in no doubt.
But you want people to vote for it in 317 constituencies?
No, I don't. I want people to vote for Boris's pledge last night that says he is going to change it in two fundamentally important areas. And what we now have to do is to make sure he keeps that promise, which is why we will turn the Brexit Party's fire onto Labour constituencies, 140 of which have never had Conservative MPs and now have a Labour Party who have broken their promises to them. They will leave constituencies now being represented by Remainer MPs. And if we can get enough people into Parliament on that ticket, we will keep Boris honest to his pledge.
How will you keep him honest? You think he's dishonest?
I think that a lot of people in career politics say things in elections to get elected and then sometimes change tack or position. I want to make sure that what he said last night he sticks to.
How?
And if he does...
How do you do it?
Well, it's very easy, isn't it? Because if we have a Brexit Party sitting in Parliament and a Prime Minister that breaks those pledges, he knows he will bleed votes in a very large and very quick way to the Brexit Party. It's a great way...
Well, in a future election in 5 years' time?
It's a great way of keeping him honest.
You've not explained how you're going to keep him honest, though, with the threat of maybe winning an election in 5 years' time.
British politics is at a state now where trust is very, very low, and people can.
How much do you blame yourself for that?
And change how. Well, I've tried to bring trust back into British politics by trying to make things accountable. And I think all the while you're part of the European Union, you're having pretty fake general elections where so much of our life is not even decided by Westminster.
All right. will you refund the money would-be candidates have spent?
We have an issue with that, and we must try and recompense people. I've got people out there. I warn them, by the way.
Well, will you refund their money or not?
Eddie, I warn them all face to face
that you might change your mind in a week.
If circumstances changed, I did this over the last 3 months, that if circumstances changed, we may have a different situation. And I'm sorry for people that have put their time and their money
the people who believed
on the line. Well, they still believe me, actually, and I have to tell you overwhelmingly.
Do they? F your election strategy and F Boris, says Wayne Bradley.
Well, that's one. I'll give you 200 others if you want to read those out. If you've got time on the show, I doubt you have. Overwhelmingly,
go on.
People have. I tell you what, if I send them to you now on email, will you read them out?
Oh, I thought you were going to read them out to me. Forgive me. Right.
No, I'm not, because we're going to hit the news.
How much money have you raked in with these non-refundable £100? It's about £3,000, I think, isn't it?
We had 3,000 people who applied to be candidates. Yes, that's right.
Are you going to give them their money back?
Of course not. We're a political party set up to deliver a proper Brexit. We have reset the political agenda this year in the most astonishing way.
Well, it is astonishing, isn't it? Last week you took their money, and last week you said they would stand for your party, and this week you changed your mind.
Well, most of them sent the money in 6 months ago, actually. And the truth of it is, if we weren't here, Theresa May would still be Prime Minister.
I'm talking about your accountability to the people who've given you money.
People who've given me money believe that the Brexit Party is here to deliver Brexit, and that is what we're going to fight our damnedest to do.
You said they would stand last week in the face of everyone saying this was madness. You said, no, 600 candidates, unless Boris Johnson backs down. He didn't back down.
Yes.
Are you going to put your money... You can't blame the EU for this. You can't blame Theresa May for this. Why don't you open your chequebook and refund the money you've let down?
I suggest you play to your listeners the short clips of what he said last night.
I suggest you answer my question. Are you going to refund their money?
His position changed last night very fundamentally.
Are you going to bottle refunding their money as well?
I'm not going to refund their money. They put their faith in me to do the right thing. And the vast majority of them this afternoon agree with what I've done.
Are you a serious political party?
We are a political party who, as I say...
Are you a serious political party?
Well, we're pretty serious because we won a national election within 6 weeks.
But not a serious political party.
Well, if we're too serious, that would be horrible. We're human beings.
Are you a joke political party?
No, we're a serious party that set up, and would you know what? We won a national election within 6 weeks.
You promised to publish your European election manifesto after the European elections. Where is it?
Manifesto? What a horrible word.
You promised to publish your election manifesto at the European elections after the election was over. Where is it?
I will publish a contract with the British people, never a manifesto. That's a horrible, horrible word that equates to lie.
Well, you're going to publish a contract for this general election, but you did promise, you were asked by journalists before the European election, when are you going to publish your European election manifesto? And you said after the elections. And I'm just asking you, where is it?